This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Aaron Mate.
For the second time in 48 hours, Taliban militants have attacked part of Karachi's international airport, the largest in Pakistan. Earlier today, a group of gunmen on motorbikes opened fire on an academy run by the airport's security force. No fatalities were reported. On Sunday, an assault by Taliban militants left at least 38 people dead, including the attackers. The attack began when 10 gunmen wearing military uniforms and armed with automatic rifles and rocket-propelled grenades shot their way into the airport's old terminal. Gun battles raged for hours until security forces gained control early on Monday morning. According to government reports, most of the victims killed in the terminal were airport security forces and some airline staff.
The Pakistani Taliban has claimed responsibility for both attacks, saying it was avenging military operations in North Waziristan and a U.S. drone strike that killed its leader, Hakimullah Masood, late last year. The Pakistani government moved toward peace talks with the Taliban earlier this year, but the process has faltered with a split inside the Taliban over whether to take part. Meanwhile, the Pakistani military carried out airstrikes earlier today in tribal areas in the northwest of the country, killing at least 15 people. To find out more about the implications of the assault, we're joined now by Aisha Siddiqui, a Pakistani political and defense analyst, author of Military, Inc., Inside Pakistan's Military Economy. She's joining us via Democracy Now! Video stream from Islamabad. Welcome to Democracy Now! Talk about the significance of these attacks, Aisha.
Well, you know, the one significance definitely is that right when we thought that things were thawing down, things were calming down, perhaps there was end to the power of the Taliban, we are reminded yet again that Taliban are actually very active, and that we'll probably be daydreaming if we think that the Taliban power has come to an end. Because Karachi is a city which is the main urban center, has been one of the largest air and sea hubs for the country. And since the 1980s, that's when the first Afghan war was fought, the first Afghanistan war was fought, you know, with the help of an American war, with the help of Pakistan's ISI. Starting from then, there are different kinds of militants which have been transiting through Karachi, living in Karachi. And so, you know, it's daydreaming if we think that they have little control over, they have no influence over the city.
Aisha, can you talk about who the attackers are? Some of them, I understand, were nationals from Uzbekistan. Can you explain this complex array of militants that are inside Pakistan right now, and specifically the presence of Uzbeks in the Taliban?
You know, there are a range of militants that have come from all over the, you know, from all over the world. Initially, there were a lot of Arabs, then we are joined by Uzbeks, then you have Chinese militants from Xinjiang province who are also in the tribal areas. There are 7, when we say the tribal areas, in 7 territories or 7 agencies, which historically were never directly controlled by the state. Yet there is an interaction between the state. Formally, it is considered part of the Pakistani territory. Anyway, the Arabs, I think the couple of things that we need to look into. One, these people were Uzbeks. There are a lot of other people in Karachi as well, like you have the Rohingya Muslims from Burma, Myanmar, that are also in Karachi. So there are a lot of other nationalities which live in Karachi. Uzbeks are not just in the tribal areas in Waziristan, but they're in other parts of you know, Pakistani heartland of Punjab as well. So there's this spread, and these are people who have been guests of the Taliban, different Taliban groups. I think what's important to recognize is that initially, when after 9/11 this war was starting to be fought, the war on terror, the initial agreement between the American government and the Pakistani government, and when I say agreement, I mean an informal arrangement, was that all Al-Qaeda, all the Arabs will be, and foreigners will be handed over, you know, they will be surrendered. The Arabs largely were, but the Taliban, Americans kept their hands off them until it was realized much later that the Taliban were also part of the problem. And so that war has been fought. But because the border is porous, because Afghanistan, bordering areas, these tribal territories are adjacent to, are next to the Afghan border, which then is connected with Central Asia. So you have all these different movements, insurgent movements, Uzbekistan, Chinese, etc., who have been coming. You talked about bombing in the morning. The Air Force has bombed a week ago. It did do bombing in North Waziristan. North Waziristan which is considered to be hub of for the Haqqani. It's an R&R site for the Haqqani network. Now, it's interesting that the focus of the bombing was not the Haqqani network. It was the Chinese militants, which, the Chinese are unhappy with, the Chinese government is unhappy with. Now, this bombardment, this assault by the Air Force, it's neither here nor there. We'll begin to see results. I don't see a policy as such right there in terms of fighting militancy or fighting Talibanization. So, and as long as, and Taliban have links with different militant groups all over the region, so they will keep pouring in. And the fact that these Uzbeks are allowed to stay around in the Pakistani territory, that is something which is worth being concerned about.
Last November, Hakimullah Masood and 6 other militants were killed when U.S. missiles hit their vehicle in North Waziristan. Masood had a $5 million bounty on his head and was accused of being responsible for many deaths. The attacks came just as the Pakistani government had relaunched peace talks with the Taliban. Pakistani Interior Minister Chaudhry Nisar called the strike an attack on regional peace. Can you talk about the significance of this?
The significance of, well, was it Hakimullah or Baitullah Masood who was killed last year? I think it was Baitullah Masood.
And talk about who he is. He was.
There is this Masood group. There are the Waziri tribes, and then there are the Masood tribes. Now, these people were part of, they're part of the larger tribe, Masood and Waziri, which is connected with tribes across the border in Afghanistan as well. Now, the Masoods, because of the tension between Masoods and Waziris, what the state of Pakistan has done over years is they have given Waziris the support versus the Masoods. So Masoods, and within the Masoods, Hakimullah Masood, people like Hakimullah Masood and few others had, become antagonistic to the state. So Hakimullah Masood was the leader. Once he died again in a drone attack, then his shoes were filled in by one of his relatives, Baitullah Masood, who died last year.
Hakimullah Masood is the person that was cited as the reason for the attack on the airport, saying, I think the attacker said, we attacked the airport to avenge the death of Hakimullah Masood, our late leader. There are many more to come, as it is just the beginning.
Well, Hakimullah Masood, it's interesting that they say that, because Hakimullah Masood died, after Hakimullah's death, there wasn't this kind of reaction. I'm sure there is something else which is propelling them. And one of the reasons I believe is propelling them is this discomfort that, the government is, or the military is trying to, or its intelligence agencies are trying to make inroads into the militant group itself and dividing them. After Baitullah Masood's death, Maulana Fazlullah from Swat was made, who's not a Masood, was made the head of TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Now, there's that division, there is Khalid Masood, there are other groups which do not support. Recently, the Khalid Masood group had delinked itself from the TTP, so there were breaks emerging. And I think what they have done with this attack is reasserted themselves and sent a message amongst their followers that they're still alive, they're still kicking, and that they can still do some action.
Ayesha, we just have a minute. A quick question. Do you see this as an escalation of violence, as the beginning of increased attacks, and the effects of the drone strikes on these?
I think there will be some attacks, but I am not exceptionally worried. I think what the government needs to do is seriously think about its larger policy on Talibanization or supporting one group or the other. We cannot have this duality in our policy.
We thank you so much, Ayesha Siddiqui, for joining us, Pakistani political and defense analyst, author of Military Inc., Inside Pakistan's Military Economy.